Hey guys, so I want to talk to you guys about something that has been on my mind for a while now. It is something I've been thinking about because ever since I've joined like BookTube or I started even before when I just was watching BookTube and I joined Goodreads and I created the Book Corner, which is a book group I have on BookTube. I mean not BookTube on Facebook because I am one of those people who still participates on Facebook. Um, and I've come to realize something about myself. I am better at remembering screen adaptations and recalling things from movies and TV shows than books. Especially if the book is so dense and thick with plot and writing and stuff that it's hard for me to take it all in and remember and recall details. Like I love the Song of Ice and Fire series, but I remember the TV show better than the books. So ever since because of that, that's also got me thinking about what I like in a book. What appeals to me. And I've been having every so often I have this conversation with my best friend, Terry, one of my best friends, about we talk about the kind of books that we really like. I mean, it's easier for us to find common ground in TV shows and movies rather than books. One of her favorite genres is romance, and I do not like it. I do not want to read a plot where the only the only conflict in the story is the relationship between these two people. Now, I will watch romantic comedies, romance movies, and I read classic romances like Gone with the Wind. I've read Pride and Prejudice. We read Sense and Sensibility together. But even Jane Austen, I'm just not the two. Now, I've only read two of her novels, so I might like her other novel. I might really enjoy her other novels, but I couldn't get into them. I wasn't into them as everybody else is. Now, I understand, I get the whole appeal of Darcy and Elizabeth, and they normally are my favorite type of couple. But the problem with Jane Austen's novels is, yes, it's historical fiction, and that is one of my favorite genres, but it's only about the daily life and these people falling in love and things that get between them falling in love and everything. Like in Pride and Prejudice, their own pride and prejudices, hence the title, against each other, and Elizabeth was into the other guy. For some reason, his name escapes me. And there was pressure for her, and there was, of course, the pressure to marry. Her mother was a little crazy, and the rest of her family was crazy, so it made her look bad in Darcy's eyes. And then, Bingley's was all into Elizabeth's sister Jane, and then Darcy was afraid that Jane, because of just how shy and distant she was, he told Bingley, he was like, well, this girl isn't that great, and maybe you shouldn't even consider her. And that kind of ruined his relationship with Elizabeth, any potential he had with Elizabeth, because he started developing feelings for her against his will. So there was all these obstacles and stuff, but that's all that was about. That's all it was. And the same with Sense and Sensibility. It was about these two sisters. They were in financial straits. I mean, they were well off enough, but they both had to get married, so they would be taken care of financially because their brother's new wife was all like, your sisters are mooching off of you, so you need to, they need to learn to live on their own without you helping them. And it was basically about their whole, like the younger sister, Marianne, meets this really hot guy, but then turns out he was kind of just flirting with her, and and of course the only reason he pursued her is he thought she was pretty wealthy and all that, and when he realized she wasn't. And then he was like, okay, forget you. I can't be with you. Which, I mean, I still kind of am pissed off about that, but then at the same time, I can't entirely blame him for feeling the way he feels. But, and then the other sister, she was struggling. She was in love with this one, the brother of her own brother's wife. So she was struggling with those feelings, but she thought he was engaged to someone else. So that, and she was trying to, not get so attached to this guy and everything. This is all about that in their new lives and how they get by and exploring this part of England and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't that exciting. I am at some point going to read Jane Austen's other novels. I definitely want to do that. I just don't know when I'll get around to it. Who knows, if Jessie has a sister, not sister, I'm her sister. If she has a daughter, then maybe her daughter will like my collection of Jane Austen novels. Although it's in one big book. So, I do have these fantasies of Jessie having a daughter, my sister having a daughter. She has 2 boys, which I love to bits. They're so sweet. And I really wish I could have gone with my parents to go visit them, but I had work and I already asked off once. And I just started this job, so I didn't want to ask off again. So they are down there, but they will be coming home tomorrow. But I'm hoping that if they decide to have a 3rd child, they have a girl, and that I just had this little fantasy of her coming to visit us and curling up in this chair right here and reading one of my Jane Austen novels, but I also imagine, the boys also reading some of the books I have, like some of the books that boys can get into, like Peter Pan and Harry Potter and stuff. But anyway. And then, now, the things that I like, what get my attention in a book, not only is genre, but then, like, as I've said, I am a reader that goes to the store. Usually, either I know what I want and I go straight to that section where that book would be, or I constantly browse through the books and read the backs, read the descriptions. I mean, that is currently the situation I am in with Art and Used Bookstore in town when I go there. Because the selection isn't ideal, and it doesn't have, like, things like Sarah J. Maas books. It does have Twilight, and I have seen a couple Harry Potter books, and I've seen some Stephen King there. But not like the big, mainstream, popular YA works. But I even have trouble finding classics there sometimes. Like, every time I've been trying to go there and see if they have East of Eden there, and it was not there. I really should have gone today, but it might be too late because it's like, it's a 10-minute walk, as I've said before, because my parents aren't here right now. So it's in walking distance, but it's still a 10-minute walk to get to the bookstore, and it might not even be there. And of course, I'll still feel like browsing while I'm there. So I would rather just wait until my parents get home and go to Books A Million, and I think I might decide to get the book after all, as waiting to get it, or just getting it, having someone get it for me on Amazon as a Christmas gift or something. And that was East of Eden. I did borrow it from the library, but it saved me forever to read, and I would rather just go ahead and buy it so I can return my library copy. But the thing that, like I said, so I read the back of the description. Like I said, it is a turnoff if it is a vampire story. Like, I have since sworn off vampire novels. I mean, there are a lot of vampire novels out there. There's Anne Rice. There's books that are a lot like Twilight. There's the Vampire Academy. All those books. It's like, okay, I'm done. If it has any inkling of vampire in the book, in the description, then it's like, forget it. I'm not going to read this book, because it's all the same to me. Woman or girl falls for a sexy, mysterious, immortal guy, or, like, boy or man falls in love for sexy, mysterious, immortal vampire woman, and even, like, Fright Night, there is a sequel to the Fright Night movie that came out, the old one. There's not a sequel to the one that came out a few years ago, back in early 2000s, like 2011, I think. So not that early, but There's no sequel to that version, but there is a sequel to the original movie. And I read the description because I got excited. Oh my god, this is so awesome! And I realized it's basically Charlie, Peter Vincent, and Amy, and I think his friend that, like, in the 2011 movie, his friend died. But maybe he didn't die in the original movie. I don't know, but it's them. It's years later, and they're fighting another vampire who happens to be female and has the same name. Which I do think the name, Jerry could technically be a gender fluid name. And that was a big disappointment because it's basically the same plot but just a different vampire. And maybe some of the things they have to go through are a little different, but it was like, really? You couldn't get more creative? Oh, we changed the vampire to a woman, And yeah, with a woman, it would be a little different. Obviously, you're dealing with a woman, so there are differences. The sexual difference could change the story, the plot a little bit, but still, it still was like you're doing the same thing. Just you made the vampire a woman. But I've gotten bored with the vampire plots. I will still watch some vampire movies if I already like the plot. Like, I still would watch Salem's Lot. I would still read Salem's Lot. I still love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I still watch Fright Night. The 2011, I haven't seen the original movie, but the 2011 remake with David Tennant and Anton Yelchin. I have that one on Blu-ray. I think that's awesome, and I will definitely watch that soon. Probably after once I'm back up here in my room, or who knows, I might watch it tonight if there's something else good on tonight. Halloween related, because I'm in the mood for watching. Of course, it's Halloween, so I'm in the mood for watching spooky stuff. But like I said, the description. I swear off vampires, but the description pulls me in, and then I like the writing style. The writing style is also a big pull in for me. Of course, the writing style I figure out after I've read the book, because I am the type of person, unlike Terry, who will read the book at the bookstore, she will actually read the book. But me, I just want to buy it and go home and read it when I want to read it. I don't want to take the time to read my book, because usually I have another book already with me that I'm in the middle of. Or I want to work on my writing or something, or I just want to go home now, And, so I don't take the time to read the book, to read like a first chapter while I'm at the store, like Terry does. So unfortunately that means you don't figure out the writing style until after you bought the book, or at least in my case, until after I bought the book and start reading it. But that's definitely what pulls me in, what gets my attention. If I really fall in love with the writing style and I feel like it's beautiful and pulls me in, and I like flowery writing, but not super flowery. Not to the point of where it's like reading a poem, reading poetry. And even classics, I have a hard time reading because of the writing style. Plus, when I usually get the mass production versions, mass produced, and the print is tiny. And it drives me crazy. I cannot be tired. I have to be in a good, alert, awake place to read tiny print. I mean, even, my Outlander series, my editions of Outlander, the print is small. And, I mean, I'm definitely getting better at reading books like that. Because, and I have read books like that and finished. My edition of Gone with the Wind and my edition of It. Well, actually, this is a newer edition that I haven't had. Maybe it's 6 months old, the edition that I bought. Because my original copy of It, the Stephen King novel It, was kind of damp and was falling apart. And unfortunately, I cannot donate it to the bookstore, so I actually gave it to Terry when she came to visit because I know her mom likes Stephen King and she kind of was interested in Stephen King, so I was like, I pawned off my copy on her so I could buy another one. So I bought another copy, a nicer copy. And it's also partly because I know my mom would be like, why do you have 2 copies of this book? If she ever, looked at my bookshelf. So these are the things that get my attention. The plot, or the genre first, then the plot, then the writing style. Although characters help too. Like it has to have some good characters. But plot, I think I'm more of a plot person than a character. I mean, I like good character stories. Well, I'm kind of both plot and characters. Like, I couldn't choose. I mean, plot does lure me in first because it's the first thing I discover. Then I discover the characters. But I think I'm definitely more of a plot person. So that's really, so basically what I like I said, my 3 favorite genres are fantasy, historical fiction, and supernatural horror. And then mystery, historical mysteries. And a little bit of sci-fi. Some sci-fi, but it has to be kind of like the low sci-fi. Sci-fi that I can understand the concept, and I can get into it, and I can appreciate it, and I'm not bored to death because I don't understand what they're talking about. And then, as I've said, I make exceptions for romances, but it's my least favorite genre to read. When it's just the romance. Like, it has to have a lot of something going on, other than the daily life and the relationship. Like, I really, one of the things that I really love about historical fiction author Kate Morden is that a lot of times her plots revolve around a mystery. They're historical fiction, and sometimes they are written in the same time period as Jane Austen novels take place, because she's a modern Australian author. She writes, like, there's always something going on. There's a mystery going on. Someone was murdered or something. Some crazy plot like that. And in the present, this woman has to figure out, because the protagonist is always female. And basically she has to solve the problem. She has to figure out, she has to piece it all together. And that's why, it's not just about the daily lives of these characters. Something crazy happens to these characters in the past when they were young and, discovering life and learning about life and experiencing life and having relationships. And oftentimes it's like a murder, or a character has some kind of crazy secret going on. That's why I like Kate Morden. And I definitely am looking forward to seeing her write more books. Hopefully soon there's another book of hers that will come out. But that's basically what I like. I like fantasy. I like historical fiction, either historical mysteries, historical romance, but I will not read like those books that you see at Walmart or at the airport. They're usually mass production. They're made with the mass production publishing companies. I won't read those. Especially, they're basically books with, I have an exception because you can consider this one book that Terry got me to read, Fool's Paradise. She got me to read that one, which was one of those type of books. It was basically this woman, she's betrothed. This is back in medieval Renaissance period. This woman is being betrothed to this guy that she doesn't like him. He's kind of an asshole. She runs away and runs into this guy who is he's basically a jester for a living, and he helps her go into hiding. She even cuts off all her beautiful hair and dresses up like a boy, and they slowly fall in love. But, it was good. It was fun. I really, really did enjoy it, and I liked the guy. I really liked the main guy. And I liked the female, the protagonist too. It was a fun story, but I wasn't again, it was another story that I just wasn't in love with. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it, but it wasn't like, oh my god, this is the best book ever. I have to keep it. I can read it all over again kind of book. And the same thing with this one book called Joining, which was kind of like a medieval version of Pride and Prejudice. Or no, actually, it was a medieval type version of Taming of the Shrew. And that was fun, and actually, like, the stories that, like, speaking of Taming of the Shrew, like, the Shakespeare stories I would like to try to read are, well, I read Julius Caesar once. I like to read, what is it? I can't remember where, not Othello, but the other one where, like, the young prince of Denmark, his father was murdered by his uncle. He's trying to prove that his father was murdered by his uncle, and, to be or not to be, which I can't remember what that one is called. I really want to read that one. I just realized my other dog's up here, too. Both my dogs are up here. Well, I'm going to go downstairs soon, though, when I'm done making this video, because I need to be down there when my neighbor comes to pick me up. It's right there. Good. I thought Roscoe was sitting on my phone. She'll be picking me up around like 1:45, which means I only have an hour to do everything. It really sucks. But this is why I hate when things are in the middle of the day. Well, a little bit more than an hour, but anyway. So I can be picky to an extent of what I read. I'm more open-minded, I think, than most, and I definitely have more things I'm willing to read than some of my friends are. And I believe that there are, in cases where there are exceptions to what you won't read. I mean, like, part of the reason why I read Fool's Paradise and Joining, it was because it was a book that actually the husband of the neighbor who was taking me to this class for work, her husband reads books too, so they were giving me a bunch of books. I mean, he gives me all his books and stuff. And this was in their collection of books that he gave me. So that's why, and I felt bad because I hadn't read any of the books that he gave me already. So I decided to read that one, and it was, plus I write reviews for a local magazine, so I'm trying to add more variety in my review, in what I read, so I can write reviews for different types of books. So I read that one. That's why I read that one. And then Fool's Paradise was a book that, my friend Terry was trying to get me to read, and it does sound interesting and sound fun and all that, and I wasn't disappointed. I did enjoy it. It's just not my number one go-to genre. But so here's what I like. I said, I like fantasy, I like historical fiction, and some of the little sub-categories of historical fiction. I'll make exceptions for historical romances, but I won't read the ones that you could get, like, at Walmart or the airport with the cheesy cover, like the guy with his shirt open, and the woman is clinging to him, that it has that really cheesy title, like, I mean, even that one, Fool's Paradise, is a cheesy title. And normally, I probably wouldn't have given it a second thought, but my friend was kind of pushing me to read it. She really wanted me to read, so I decided to, when she came to visit me for, a couple years ago, I told her to bring it, and because she has more than one copy, so I read it, and again, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I love this book, it's so awesome, but if it has a really cliche plot, and, it has a silly, cheesy cover on it, as a silly, cheesy title, then that will probably be a little bit of a turnoff. So I am a little bit shallow when it comes to my books in that way. So, and I don't like, this is why I don't like people recommending books to me. Because I am very, because I do believe I am somewhat particular. I think I am somewhat picky. I mean, I'm always giving Terry and my other friends, well, not directly giving my other friends a hard time, but, that they are very picky. And it disappoints me how picky they are. But then I've come to realize that I am a little picky myself. So I'm a little hypocrite. So I feel like I am kind of a bit of a hypocrite for giving them a hard, at least for giving Terry a hard time. Because I am picky. I have my things that I won't read. Like, I won't read erotica. And I won't read romance. Straight up romance. But like I said, there are exceptions to that. Depending. And let's see what else. I won't read thrillers, but I have read a few thrillers. Like, I didn't realize The Dark Half by Stephen King was a thriller until it was too late. But I also wanted to finish it and find out what happens and how they get out of it. And the plot, the conflict was kind of interesting too. How the conflict was set up was really kind of cool. And some of the genres I won't read, I would rather watch them on TV or in a movie, on a film. I would rather do that than read them, because books do take a period of time to read. And I can't just sit there, as much as I love to read, I can't just sit there, spend all day reading a book. I have to take breaks, not just meal breaks to eat something for lunch or breakfast or to go to sleep, but also sometimes I want to get out of the house. Or I'm not comfortable where I'm sitting and reading the book. Or like, I have something that my parents are asking me to do, or they're running errands, they want me to come along, and because I get an opportunity to go to Books A Million, or even, like, I'm getting more into clothes, so to go shopping, then I take breaks. I like taking breaks. It's, I mean, as much as I love reading, sometimes it's nice to take a little bit of time away from a book. I know, shocking, right? But yes, sometimes it is nice to just step back and take a breather, and do something else. So, and then, like I said, I like supernatural horror. So, like I said, I won't read thrillers that often, but I do like supernatural horror. And I'm getting more into Stephen King. I'm definitely reading more Stephen King novels. Let's see what else. Like I said, I like mysteries, but again, historical mysteries, I like them more than modern mysteries. Like, I always had a soft spot for those. I love those old-fashioned detective 1930s, which is kind of ironic because I've never watched the movie Dick Tracy before. And you would think I would have watched it by now, because I do kind of like those detective stories. Like, I like the idea of them. So it's funny that I haven't watched anything like Dick Tracy or anything like that. But and I really like Sherlock Holmes, which, although Sherlock Holmes is definitely they're hard to read because, again, small print, and it was written a long time ago, back in like the 1800s, so the writing style is different. And sometimes I just have a hard time getting into that writing style. I will read those books and finish them, or try to, but I haven't read that many. And I prefer modern classics rather than the original classics. But I've read some of them. Like I said, I've read Sense and Sensibility. I've read Pride and Prejudice. I've read Jane Eyre. I've read A Tale of Two Cities. Let's see, what else have I read? Well, although some of these books are partly because of school. Because, you read, every year you're assigned, summer reading. I want to just get through the summer reading. So that's what I like. I like fantasy, historical fiction, and supernatural horror. And all the other genres, I have made exceptions to the genres I won't read, like romance and science fiction. And I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, so I'm going to end this video here. I hope this video did not bore you and you guys find this interesting. And if you did, why don't you share with me what you like to read and what kind of books do you read? What books get your attention? How do you decide what you want to read? And do you sometimes struggle with explaining to people what you like to read? What genres? I mean, do people automatically, when you say you like a certain genre or something, do they recommend something, but it turns out to be something that you're not really interested in? Because it's not, even though it's part of the type of books you like to read, is it something that it just doesn't have the same spark? So, bye.